Welcome to this week's Wellness, Wealth and Mindset Weekly, a weekly newsletter from me where I just share my personal lessons and experiences from the past week. So if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, then send us a like or subscribe over there. And hopefully you're enjoying the weekly installments so far. And obviously just let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. I'll be glad to hear any of your feedback so far. And if you like a weekly installment straight to your inbox, then don't forget to subscribe over at neildamrell.com and you'll get straight access every Friday to my weekly newsletter. So let's dive in to this week's newsletter. And first of all, just going to share a little bit about my health and the value of consistency. So since the turn of the latter part of 2022 and the turn of this year, my training has been more consistent than it has been for a long time. And a lot of people might relate to this, that a change in job role for me has helped to support my personal needs better. It's led to me being more able to put myself first rather than the job first. And for a long time, it was the job first and me second. Always desperately trying to find a part of me that I could do in order to somewhat feel like myself. So always trying to grasp at something that I was passionate about in terms of my exercise and, keep me on a level playing field. But that was always grabbing scraps rather than making that a priority, because obviously the job demanded a lot more of me than I would like it to have done. And obviously a change of roles has allowed me to really put myself first and focus on a bit more consistency with my health and well-being. And as a result, generally my physical and mental well-being, I'm seeing more progress in my goals than I have done in a long time, and definitely achieving what I want to achieve going forward. Just to share my main focuses for this year. So I've got 2 cycling goals that I'm aiming for this year. Ride London, which is 100 miles, closed road event around London, out towards Essex and back. Did that last year. Really fun event, really good. So hoping to improve on my performance from last year. And then first ever Dragon Ride in Wales, which is 120 kilometre, 150 kilometre, I think, bike ride in Wales. A lot of hills, taking in a lot of elevation, really challenging, up and down all day. But I'm a big fan of climbing, so I'm really excited about taking that on this year. And that is a few weeks after Ride London at the start of middle of June, Ride London end of May. So I've got a few months yet to really get myself up to scratch before those events. And, building and sticking to a regular training plan certainly is vital in order for me to complete these events, not just in a good time, but in one piece, and feeling that I'm not going to suffer the whole way around because I'm not doing any training. So it's really important I'm focusing on my training schedule and keeping that on top. So just going to give you a little rundown of what I've been doing in order to get myself to that level. So in order to do so, here's my weekly training plan, and which you might have already seen. And I've already seen actually a 5% increase in my average power, probably within the last 6 to 8 weeks since starting it. So Monday mornings, I get in the gym every morning, 5 a.m. I start my sessions first thing in the morning. It's the first thing I do, get it out of the way, and then I've got the rest of the day to be productive with work. So it doesn't ever interfere with my day that I'm trying to fit in exercise around work. It's done before work. So Monday mornings, 1 hour zone 2 cardio on the bike, nice and easy. Try and keep it at the lower level of your zone 2. So I'm working on power, so rather than towards the top end of your zone 2, more towards the bottom end, just to minimize fatigue and aid in recovery. Then I'll do on a Tuesday a full body weight session, and that'll be comprising of squats, full body squats, 3 sets of 12 at a weight that is comfortable to lift with a little bit of fatigue, but more on the lighter side. I'll tell you why in a second. Then will be, back exercise, lat pull down, then a chest press, shoulder presses, and I'll start the session with a good 10 minutes of core, working on some crunches, weighted crunches, planks, hanging deadlifts with knee lifts for the lower core. So all these really focusing on the main fundamentals of physical performance rather than spending time doing a bicep curl or tricep dip. So I'm in the gym, in and out in 45 minutes, really efficient and not wasting too much time. And then while I'm keeping on the lighter side is because I'm following this session with another session on Wednesday, which will be on the bike. So that's going to be an hour of zone 4 efforts, and that could anything between 5 to 10 minute efforts at the moment. That could eventually go up to 20-minute efforts, but working on maintaining my FTP or above for 5 to 10 minutes in order to see some progress in terms of improving my FTP and endurance and my tolerance to push a faster and higher gear for longer going forward, which is obviously then going to help me be faster, more efficient and stronger as a cyclist. So those efforts, that's why I do the lighter side, the weights on the Tuesday, so I'm not fatigued for the Wednesday. And that's quite a hard session. And then I follow that with another hard session on the Thursday, which is a full body weights again and core, but on the heavier side. So I'm going to lift heavier or try and elicit more fatigue on those muscles than I did on Tuesday in order for me to see more progress in my strength. And also because I'm not doing a hard session the next day, I'm allowing that little bit of fatigue that's going to come in from those two sessions, the one on the Wednesday and the one on the Thursday. Friday, then this will be a 1 hour zone 2 again, just spinning the legs. And then on a Saturday, at the moment, it's more of an active rest day during the winter, but certainly as the summer months and the spring comes round, then it will be walking. So we'll be doing like a 3 hour group ride, averaging between zone 2 and 4, with some efforts within that. And that's obviously going to help me spend more time on the bike, more hours on the bike, get me ready for those bigger events where I'm going to be spending, 3 to 8 hours cycling because of, the distance we're doing. So these are the key things that I'm doing. But at the moment, because it's winter, just working on improving my base, level of endurance, muscle memory, and minimizing fatigue. So, active recovery is also on a Sunday, go for a long walk. So keeping my body moving and keeping myself active. But the way I'm structuring my sessions is that there's a lot of, zone 2 efforts and a couple hard efforts in the week, because, you don't need to push hard in the gym all the time, because you want to manage your fatigue so you can train consistently. And I've been training consistently week in, week out, Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, up at 4:45, in the gym at 5, done by 6. It's pretty challenging sometimes towards the end of the week, but certainly I've started to see the benefits from that, and the weekends are then allowing me to recover, maybe a little more of a lie-in for an extra hour, get up at 6, but focusing on my sleep to recover well, and then I'm back to it on the Monday. And just being consistent, and that's the highlight of what I've learned this week, is that because I'm being consistent with that progress, I'm not suffering with severe DOMs because I've not trained for a while, which you tend to get if you've had quite a period of time not working out. And I'm not over fatigued from the week of training. I'm not absolutely burnt out because I'm managing my efforts. So on a Wednesday, that'll be an hour for the first 3 weeks. And then the fourth week, I tend to do half an hour. So I'm still doing an effort, but I'm doing half an hour just to manage time on the bike and fatigue and have more of a recovery week the fourth week, as opposed to trying to build and progress every week, which can be a bit too challenging. So that is a clear breakdown. And then also on top of this, just as a little side note, is that I'm taking 10 minutes before bed and doing a little bit of stretching and making sure at least I'm getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So the stretching every day, just for 10 minutes, is aiding my recovery, a bit of foam rolling as well. But the key is making sure I'm getting sleep. I'm in bed 8, half 8, and then up at half 4. So because I'm up early, I need to be in bed early. It might not suit you to be in bed and up as early as that, but trying to get at least 7 to 9 hours. So if you are getting up at 7, you want to be in bed by 11 really. So trying to focus on stuff like that suits you. And that's what's been helping me, because the recovery is what's going to be allowing me to train regularly throughout the week. And, also as another side note as well, it's really important to throw in an FTP test, especially focusing on cycling, every, 4, 6 to 8 weeks. I would say more on the 6 to 8 week level. 4 weeks is quite a short window, but certainly I'm doing it every 8 weeks to measure progress alongside the recovery weeks every 4th week, as I mentioned. And that way, my FTP levels in terms of my zone 2s and zone 4s are going to be a little bit, they're going to change as I get stronger. So always feeling my average power is increasing on my threshold efforts. So an FTP is due, which I'm going to be doing this week. And, I'll feed you back on how I get on there. But in doing so, because I'm being able to put out more power. My FTP zones will be higher, so I might have to work a little bit harder or a higher zone that I was used to because my FTP has gone up. So this allows you to always constantly see progress as opposed to just sticking to the same FT based on one test you did 4 or 5 months ago, for example. And then this hopefully will have more of a continuous growth than leading up to the events I have planned in May and June. And as you can see, these sessions, generally, like I said, at very low intensity, apart from a few efforts on the group ride. And the biggest takeaway that I would say is that the power has just been being consistent, in terms of improving my power, it's being consistent. Certainly at the moment with limited cycling outside in the winter, I've seen a steady growth in my fitness and strength while managing recovery, like I mentioned, and that's allowed me to train 5 days a week without any limitations of performance. So, like I said, final takeaway from this: if you can focus on consistency and low intensity, while there is needs for certain amounts of intensity to establish progress, too much certainly can lead to an increased risk of injury and burnout. And that is the thing. If you're looking to establish it, focus on that to minimize risk and burnout, because you want to be consistent over the long run, and not just for performance gains for an event, but health-wise as well, that you can, maintain that rather than, just trying to, push really hard and then burn out after the event, train really hard up to an event and then not do anything after the event. And we've all been there and done that. I've done that myself, where you just train so hard, you can't maintain it. After the event, you just want to relax, and then your fitness, dives quite substantially. And then, trying to get yourself back up again, get motivated to do something again. So hopefully that's been helpful for this week. If you're looking to establish some form of consistency around your health, then you can also check out my membership options to join our growing community. So if you go to neildamrow.com, you can check out the options there where you can access support, direct support from me and the community to help, realize and establish your wellbeing goals going forward. Wealth-wise, I've come to the end of the Psychology of Money, and that's been a fantastic read. Hope you've been enjoying the installments that I've been posting in the newsletters that have been prior to this. And finally, I'm just going to sum up a few points based on the book. So I've really enjoyed it. Like I've said, highly recommend it. Really easy read, really clearly laid out. The closing chapters, he talks a lot about psychology of money and how, and I'll highlight a quote in a second, that our decisions are mainly based around our emotion and not logic or facts. So, what does that tell us? Well, for me, this has just reaffirmed the message that it's important to manage your own mindset around money, while also focusing on solely what you want in your life that money can provide for us or for you. Because we're so often chasing other people's goals or pressured by society to, focus on having a bigger house, bigger car, more expensive lavish holidays, but actually we lose sight of what's truly important for ourselves. So maybe taking some time to understand that and try not to get too distracted with the noise that you see around you in, on the media front, social media, news outlets, etc. And the way that we've created, hopefully that make you less anxious and more conscious of what's making you happy from the money that you're earning and investing and spending. And what, for you, paying off your mortgage might be the best goal, but for some people it might be refinancing that in order to buy more houses to create more wealth. But there's more stress that comes with that as opposed to less stress if you've paid off your mortgage. So while you're not bringing in a lot of income from the property, your stress levels are lower. So that's the point he highlights for himself as well. So for me, try not to lose sight of what you view and take stock of your relationship around money. And he quotes that important financial decisions are not made in spreadsheets or in textbooks. They're made at the dinner table. So for me, that really sums up the whole premise of the book, is understanding what you want and not trying to get focused on, what everybody feels is right, because most people are just talking from their own opinion and no one is right. Everybody's just trying to be right, but actually no one is right, because we can never really foresee whatever is going to happen. We can only try and predict as best as possible, and that is never going to be 100%. So understanding that, being comfortable with that, and being comfortable that you don't control really anything going forward, apart from little aspects within your own life, then that's really, really a big, that really sums up the book for me in terms of I have no control over what the economy is going to do. I only have control over how I, spend my money and utilize my money and invest my money. But when you invest it, understand you don't have much control of that, but try and keep sight of the long-term solutions. If you're in it for the long term, don't get hung up on the short term if other people's goals are based around the short term. So hopefully that makes sense to you, because a lot of news is based on the short here and now and not necessarily looking 10 years down the line. Because while we might be going through a tough time with the recession, we've gone through recessions before and we've come out of it. So we just need to, hold tight and, focus on what you can do to get through that, and things will become easier and better going forward, because, everything comes in waves. So hopefully that will definitely help me. If you need to check out the book, certainly go into the show notes where a link to the book is if you'd like to check it out. Really easy read. I don't read every day. It took me 2 or 3 weeks to read it on and off, but you definitely could get through it in a week if you're quite an avid reader. So, and then finally, mindset wise, this week, I'm going to talk about the value in less. So recently I've just moved in with my girlfriend. Officially, it was at the start of the month, but I've been staying here at hers for past about 4 months now. So it wasn't like a massive change from one place to the other. So I've been gradually moving my belongings over from my old place to hers. But then the last bit, in order to remove everything and make sure the room is ready for another tenant to let, then I was suddenly hit with a little bit of stress and anxiety. And not necessarily because of the move, but because of the amount of stuff I had to try and organise, which was making me more stressed. And, stuff that I had to kind of think about bringing over with me, or what I was going to take to the charity shop. And, I'm someone as well with very, very little. I've moved house a lot. And every time I've moved house, I've removed stuff and got rid of stuff to the charity shop. So I've tried to minimize my life of material items as much as I can on a consistent basis ever since I went traveling back in 2004. So it's not like I had loads of stuff, but the amount of stuff I still caused me a little bit of stress. And I wanted to understand why this was. And I got a little quote to share with you from one of my favorite, and probably my favorite films and favorite books, is "The things you own end up owning you." And this was from Chuck Palahniuk, Fight Club. And ever since seeing that book, or reading that book and seeing that film, I've really focused on material items and whether they bring me joy, because they are just passing things. They're just things. They don't have any tangible effect generally. We might have a sentimental effect in some things, but eventually we're all going to pass on and, not going to be too morbid, but die, and these items will be passed down to someone else, and they'll be enjoyed by other people, and other people that we don't even, related to or get to meet, because we'll be long gone. So trying to have too much attachment to material items and things and stuff, something I'm always really trying to remove myself from. And that's definitely improved a lot since I've always kind of shed things as I've moved house, and when I've gone traveling, I've removed stuff, just took stuff in my backpack. And understanding not to be too hung up on certain material items and how that causes you stress, when ultimately they're just material things that you could replace. Hopefully they're not too expensive, but essentially you can replace them, but you can't replace time with loved ones and health and the stuff that you can have to look after yourself, rather than the small wins of joy that material items bring you. When you buy like a new shirt, you enjoy it for a second, and then after that the joy is gone. It's just another item in your closet that you wear and enjoy from time to time, but that initial joy of purchase goes away very, very quickly. So personally, in terms of moving, I've really found that in the end that I managed to remove most of the stuff, recycled pretty much most of it to the charity shop. So, and even speaking to them, that was really powerful, because they told me that everything was recycled, even if stuff they couldn't sell was going to get broken down and recycled and used somewhere else, or sold, or they were going to use it in some way to make money. It wasn't just going to go straight to the bin, which even chucking stuff out now, with looking at recycling things and waste that we create in the planet, there was another kind of stress. Is like, oh, I don't want to throw this away because it could be recycled. I want to do good when I remove it as well. So there's that added, the added extra of being anxious about that as well. So, but took it all to the charity shop, and it just stripping back my life as well definitely makes me feel happier. And I was talking to a friend recently about this, like the simpler my life is, the happier it is. And let me know in the comments below if you find this is something that you relate to as well. But I know the less I have, the less things I worry about, the more, time I have in my head for creativity and just enjoying being present with, family, friends, loved ones, and it being in the moment and enjoying life as it is, rather than getting hung up and stressed about loads of material items. So, and I know certainly when my time is up, I would like my house to be really, really minimal. So anybody that has to kind of maybe look after that or remove stuff, it's going to be really easy for them, rather than a big stress of, whether I would like to have kept this, because there's something, a story you make up in your head, isn't it? It's not actually what maybe that person wants. You just make it up. So yeah, definitely, we moved in, all really good, really easy, and just there's still stuff I need to remove that I've brought over, and slowly removing that bit by bit. But I'm very conscious now going forward even more. And if you've not checked out the film Minimalism, that's a really powerful book or powerful film to watch. It's on Netflix. I think the new one is on Netflix, not the old one. That's been taken off recently, but definitely worth checking out. The less you have, definitely the easier life is, the simpler life is. And constantly being mindful of stuff you purchase, because we can get hung up on purchasing stuff, but do you really need it? And if you purchase, say, a shirt, really you need to get rid of a shirt that you've not worn for a long time in order to purchase that new shirt. So just so you kind of have a good amount that you utilize and use regularly, rather than just a lot of stuff that is there but you don't really utilize, and you just create more and more storage space. You need more stuff, more rooms, bigger house to store more rubbish when actually you don't really need it, So definitely check that out if you haven't checked it out. But overall, definitely having less has been a really big benefit to me, and going to work on that going forward to have less and less in the future. So, and last quote of the day is just a little song I heard on the radio the other day, and I was like, this is a perfect quote. This makes me feel good, and I wanted to share that with you to wrap up today's newsletter. And the quote was from Lucky Man, The Verve. If you've heard that song, it's a beautiful song, and the lyric goes, happiness, something in my own place. I'm stood here naked, I smile, and I feel no disgrace with who I am. And I think, if we can love ourselves, that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? And feeling completely happy with ourselves and not being worried about anyone judging us. I think that's a great goal to have. So let me know if you resonate well with that quote. And if you've enjoyed today's newsletter, don't forget you can subscribe by going to neildamrow.com, where you get a weekly dose every Friday straight to your inbox. But you can also check it out, obviously, on the podcast, as you might be doing today, or on the YouTube video. If you want to go to YouTube and access the video link, then feel free to check it out on YouTube. But thank you very much for listening, watching, and reading this week, and we'll see you again soon.